Welcome, curious listeners, to what we affectionately call our audio library.
Hmm.
Think of this not just as a listening experience, but really like opening a particularly compelling book. Not literally, of course, but metaphorically speaking.
Right, a shared reading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a dedicated space where we immerse ourselves in a story, one that invites us to listen, to learn, and honestly to truly feel.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving deep into a remarkable collection of experiences, memories, and some really profound insights drawn from an excerpt titled Dream Count by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
A fantastic piece.
It really is. It's like stepping right into the mind of this captivating narrator, experiencing life through her eyes and, the eyes of those around her, too. We'll be navigating this really rich tapestry of human experience.
Extracting those potent nuggets.
Exactly. Those potent nuggets of wisdom and those aha moments, the kind that stick with you long after you've, well, metaphorically closed the book.
Hmm.
Our mission, as always, is to guide you through this immersive reading experience, helping you connect the dots and really appreciate the profound depth woven into every single anecdote and reflection.
That's perfectly put. And this deep dive, it isn't merely about, summarizing events or characters. It's about understanding the very texture of life as lived by these individuals.
Texture, that's a great word for it.
Yeah, grappling with these huge universal themes, identity, love, loss, and that relentless pressure of societal expectations. We all feel that.
We do.
We'll explore how these intensely personal narratives unfold against the, well, often turbulent backdrop of global events. It reveals the intricate, sometimes really surprising connections between individual lives and the wider world.
It really does.
So settle in, because this is going to be an incredibly rich and, I think, thought-provoking journey. We're going to peel back some layers of human experience here.
Okay, so as we turn the first page of this deep dive, our journey begins, well, like it did for so many of us, right?
So,
With a sudden, really jarring shift in reality.
the pandemic.
Exactly. The narrator, who we come to know as Chia, she initially envisioned lockdown not as confinement, but almost like a sanctuary, a period of calm productivity.
Right, that initial optimism.
She had this whole idyllic plan worked out. Self-care rituals,
Mhm.
diligently drinking 8 glasses of water, jogging on the treadmill, patting rich serums on her skin, all that
The
stuff.
lockdown goals we all had.
Totally. And even more ambitiously, she planned to write travel pieces from old notes, maybe even start a book if this strange interlude lasted long enough. She genuinely saw it as an opportunity, a chance to get things done, to finally catch up.
It's really striking how quickly that initial, almost naive optimism just crumbled.
Almost overnight.
Yeah. The source vividly captures her psychological whiplash. She describes feeling like she's spiraling inside a bottomless well only days into lockdown.
Wow. That's intense.
It is. And this isn't just like disappointment. It's a profound overturning of perceived order. As she put it, feeling like all of human progress were swiftly reversing to an ancient stage of confusion that should by now have been extinct.
That's a powerful insight.
It really is. It suggests that our sense of societal stability and, personal control, it's far more fragile than we generally admit. It just takes a collective shock to expose how delicate it all is. And you truly get a sense of the sensory and informational overload from her description, words and warnings swirled and spun,
Oh, I remember that feeling.
right? And the constant, often contradictory health directives. Don't touch your face, wash your hands, don't go outside, spray disinfectant.
Everywhere, all the time.
It speaks of this relentless barrage of information that wasn't actually clarifying. It was just disorienting. It amplified the general panic, I think.
Absolutely. And the detail that truly brings this abstract anxiety home, making it so incredibly relatable, is her personal dilemma while washing her face.
Ah, yes, that moment.
Her palm grazes her cheek, and she just freezes, tap water still running, caught in this moment of, like, hypervigilance, wondering, did washing my face count as touching?
It sounds almost absurd now, looking back.
It does, but it perfectly illustrates the profound confusion and the intense mental effort required just to navigate those early uncertain days. This small, intimate action becomes this perfect microcosm of the larger societal disorientation. It shows how these abstract warnings about a global threat infiltrated and, well, warped the most mundane everyday routines.
Forcing us to constantly reevaluate everything.
Everything, even our most ingrained habits. It reveals that quiet, often overlooked, mental burden of living through an unprecedented crisis.
And this profound sense of disorientation, of isolation, we then see how it directly impacts the nature of human connection.
Right, the family stuff.
Yeah, the narrative shifts to show technology, specifically Zoom calls, becoming this indispensable lifeline for maintaining family ties across continents. But what's significant, I think, is that these weren't exactly gatherings for comfort or cheer.
No, not at all.
The calls are immediately characterized as being like an overcast day, bleak and burdened with the latest bad news. That sets an almost relentlessly somber tone right from the start.
That metaphor, it just paints such a clear picture of that constant emotional weight, doesn't it? Where
Yeah,
every interaction is just tinged with worry and this sense of impending gloom.
definitely. And these weren't just any family calls, they become a window into some deeply strained dynamics.
Yeah, you really see that.
We see Chia's parents, physically distant in Enugu, her brother Afam in Lagos, who's grappling with his own realities, and then her twin, Bunachi, experiencing the crisis from London.
All these different perspectives.
Exactly. And the focus of the parents, almost exclusively, is on death of the dying and the dead. Just this constant, morbid tally that reflects their own anxieties,
Yeah,
you know?
it's understandable, but so heavy.
Very. And even more striking is the raw, kind of unshielded hostility between the brothers Afam and Bunaki. They're described as brazenly barbed with each other, no longer bothering to shield my parents. It's as if the crisis just stripped away any polite facades, any pretense of familial harmony, revealing these underlying tensions and rivalries that maybe were always there, but now they're just laid bare.
Makes their interactions much more direct, almost brutal sometimes.
Exactly. It suggests that shared trauma, while sometimes it can be unifying, it can also just exacerbate existing fractures within relationships, making them more visible and volatile.
That's a crucial observation. The crisis really did have a way of not just exposing, but intensifying uncomfortable truths.
Absolutely. Consider Bunachi in London, delivering that stark news that UK doctors weren't getting essential protective gowns because, and this is chilling, the people who made them in China were dead.
Got that detail.
It's just delivered with such bluntness. It doesn't just highlight the global reach of the pandemic, it underscores the immediate, terrifying human cost and the breakdown of these interconnected supply chains that, frankly, most of us took for granted.
It's a chilling reminder of how quickly seemingly distant tragedies become intimately connected to our own well-being.
For sure. And Chia's own behavior is equally telling, isn't it? She always joined the call last, often pretending she had been on other calls.
Right, when she was really just staring at her phone.
When in fact I was just staring at my phone, bracing myself to click join. This small, private act of pretense, it speaks volumes about the emotional toll these calls took.
Her struggle to just face the bad news.
Yeah, her struggle to confront the relentless bad news head on, and the subtle ways we try to shield ourselves, even from family, during times of overwhelming stress. It's a quiet testament to the psychological burden of collective grief and anxiety.
And beyond the immediate family unit, the narrative really broadens its lens, doesn't it? It shows how individual anxieties were mirrored and, frankly, amplified by wider societal tensions. It's not just about what was happening in her living room or on those Zoom calls, but the ripples of chaos spreading through entire communities and nations.
It's particularly illuminating to see how the family's discussion of the rising numbers of Nigerian cases, changing day by day, state by state, in a macabre competition, connects to a deeper, more systemic social fragility.
A macabre competition. That phrasing is stark.
It is. The source paints a vivid and urgent picture of Afam's experience in Lagos. He describes the city as very tense. He's reporting right from the ground, witnessing mobs are gathering at estates all over the island, asking for money and food.
That's terrifying.
It is. And he points out many people earn their living day to day. They don't have anything to fall back on. This isn't just about the spread of a virus. It directly reveals the precarious existence of a huge segment of the population.
Right. For them, lockdown wasn't just inconvenient.
Exactly. It presented an immediate existential threat to survival. It highlights the stark inequalities that were just exacerbated by the crisis. It underscores how societal stability is built upon this fragile edifice of economic well-being and how quickly that can collapse when a daily wage just disappears.
And it's not just Afam's words. It's the imagery used. It's so powerful, almost cinematic, in conveying this rapid erosion of normalcy.
Yeah, the visuals are strong.
Afam, who Chia remembers as a Lagos big man with power in his pockets, this figure of influence and control, now appears fragile on the screen, his usual bravado just stripped away.
Real shift.
And his wife, in this desperate act, is barricading their children in the kitchen because it has the sturdiest door. A chilling detail that speaks to the immediate physical threat they're perceiving.
It brings it right home.
And then there's that chilling video he sent with the caption, "One down," referring to an ambulance screaming down his street. Just a stark, unsentimental tally of lives lost.
Wow. One down.
These aren't abstract statistics. These are visceral, human moments that make the abstract concept of a crisis feel incredibly immediate and personal. For you, the listener, it shows how easily societal structures can be strained, how quickly power dynamics shift in the face of widespread uncertainty, and how even those seemingly insulated by wealth find their sense of security just shattered.
So, moving from that external chaos, the world upended, to the internal landscape of the people living through it.
Right, the personal impact.
The narrative profoundly explores the personal tolls of loneliness and the reevaluation of identity against this backdrop of global uncertainty. Chia, for instance, expresses this deep, almost primal longing.
The dream about her mother.
Exactly. She dreams of hugging her mother, waking up surprised because I had not consciously thought of hugging her. This isn't just like a nostalgic dream. It's a subconscious yearning to hear another person breathing close by.
That hits hard, that basic human need.
It really does. It underscores a profound sense of isolation that transcends just physical distance. The crisis, in essence, forces this stark confrontation with fundamental human needs for connection and proximity.
It's a palpable sense of solitude that forces introspection, doesn't it? And it's not just about the present moment. The crisis acts as this catalyst, sparking moments of really deep existential reflection.
Like the gray hair incident.
Exactly. Chia finds a single gray hair, and it triggers this powerful internal monologue. "I'm growing old, and the world has changed, and I've never been truly known.
Oof.
The great longing of my life was to be known. A rush of raw melancholy brought tears to my eyes. This is all there is, this fragile breathing in and out."
It's so raw.
It is.
Oh.
And this isn't merely a moment of personal melancholy. It's a stark illustration of how a global crisis can strip away our everyday distractions, forcing an immediate, unvarnished confrontation with our deepest existential anxieties. The fear of being unknown, of life unlived, maybe.
That longing, which probably predates the pandemic,
Oh, definitely.
is acutely magnified by it. It suggests that profound self-reckoning often arises from that forced stillness and the perception of a finite future.
And that profound magnification of existing vulnerabilities, that's equally evident with Nafissatou, right?
Absolutely. Her waiting during lockdown is described as being heightened by untamed pain, a really visceral internal suffering. She's not just anxious, she's worried about her suspended court case and her job prospects.
The practical worries pile on top.
Yeah, repeatedly asking, how will I get a job again after this? And sounding so despondent that Chia says she wanted to weep. This raises an important question. How do these global events, seemingly distant and impersonal, directly amplify and intersect with our most intimate and deeply personal struggles?
That's the key question.
Nafissatou's past fear, shouting, "He will send people to kill me," resurfacing during this period. It highlights how the present crisis can reactivate old traumas, making everything feel much more precarious and interconnected.
Wow.
It's a powerful demonstration of how collective uncertainty can unravel individual coping mechanisms, leaving one exposed to past and present anxieties simultaneously.
It's clear that crisis strips away so much of what we take for granted, right? From societal order to personal connections. But as those external bonds fray, what happens to our most intimate relationships?
Yeah, the focus shifts inward.
Let's now turn our attention to Chia's labyrinth of love, starting with Darnell. He appears as a significant, yet ultimately really unsatisfying relationship in her life, almost this recurring ache that leaves her feeling emptily as time passed until she saw him again.
Only to regret it later.
Right, only to wish she hadn't loved him after it ended. It's this cycle of longing and regret that speaks volumes about their dynamic from the get-go.
This relationship dynamic is incredibly telling. It's a fascinating study in emotional imbalance, I think.
How so?
Well, Chia openly admits to lying to Darnell. She says, "As often as I lied to Darnell, I lied to please him, to be the person he wanted me to be, and sometimes I lied to wrest wretched scraps of reassurance from him."
Wretched scraps of reassurance. That's powerful phrasing.
It is. This isn't just about deceit. It reveals a profound, almost desperate longing for validation and a willingness to reshape her own identity to fit his expectations.
Which contrasts so sharply with his attitude.
Exactly. With Darnell's emotional detachment, when she was sick, his replies were simply, feel better. Just that. A terse phrase that was not a question that opened the door for more.
No follow-up, no real concern.
No, he never engaged in deeper conversation. It demonstrates this unilateral emotional investment from Chia and a clear lack of reciprocal effort from his side. It highlights how one person can be fully present and vulnerable while the other remains resolutely closed off, creating a deeply unfulfilling dynamic.
And the financial aspect adds another kind of uncomfortable layer of complexity to their relationship, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. Darnell is clearly reliant on Chia's resources, yet he performs this ritual of reluctance whenever she pays for things, even for small items like beer.
A performance.
Totally. When she bought him expensive gifts like a MacBook and an iPhone for his birthday, he said, "Thanks, babe, but come on, it's too much, it's almost vulgar." Yet, despite these performative objections, he always ended up accepting them.
Of course he did.
It illustrates this strange, almost theatrical power dynamic where her generosity was both desired and perhaps resented. It exposes his own unease with his dependence.
This kept boy dynamic, as the text implies.
Right. It makes him seem petulant and highlights his discomfort with his maybe compromised masculinity in the face of her affluence. It's a subtle but powerful commentary on how money can really warp intimacy.
Yeah. And his humor wasn't exactly funny.
Oh, that acid humor, which was not quite humor, especially when he'd been drinking. He made comments like her family not being a real African family, not like yours, implying her affluence made her impurely African.
Ouch. That's a low blow.
It's not just a casual dig, it's a questioning of her very identity through this racial and class lens. It's an insidious way to undermine her self-worth and assert his own, albeit fragile, sense of superiority.
And even in intimacy.
Yeah. In bed, his self-centeredness is explicit. He would say, "Shit, shit, shit," during ecstasy. This private utterance that, rather than inviting her in, made Chia's body shudder itself. A visceral, almost involuntary reaction to feeling unheard and unseen in her most vulnerable moments.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. The narrator's profound thought, "Love can be self-damage if in fact it is love," perfectly encapsulates the destructive nature of this dynamic, where the search for connection, rather than leading to fulfillment, leads to a kind of internal harm and a reevaluation of what love truly entails. It's a relationship that seems to strip her rather than build her up.
Okay, so in stark contrast to the complexities and, frankly, the pain of Darnell, we meet Chuka.
Right, Mr. Stability.
Exactly. He initially seems to represent a much more traditional, stable path for Chia. She describes him as an Igbo engineer, emphasizing his background, calling him sturdy, reassuring, uncreative.
Ouch, uncreative.
Yeah, but he's direct in his intentions, right?
Yeah.
He states, "Chia, I'm too old to play games. My intention is marriage." He truly seems to embody the kind of partner her family, and maybe society, would expect her to choose, offering stability and a clear future.
Indeed. Chuka, at first glance, appears to be the complete antithesis of Chia's stated desire for somebody foreign with poetry in his soul.
Yeah, he doesn't sound very poetic initially.
No. His predictable tastes are strikingly evident in his living room, which reminded her of her parents' house with its tan leather sofas, a tan coffee table, and heavy tasseled tan curtains.
Tan on tan on tan.
Pretty much. This mundane decor leads to her initial dismay, and she thought guiltily that he was like that door. Sturdy, reassuring, uncreative. This internal reflection highlights the deep-seated tension she experiences.
Between what's expected and what she wants.
Exactly. Between societal expectations, her family's desires for a suitable match, and her own yearning for something more unconventional, something that sparks her soul beyond mere stability. It's that classic conflict between the head and the heart, or maybe between convention and individual desire.
But here's where it gets really interesting, right? Where the narrative completely subverts those initial assumptions.
Yes, the surprise.
Despite Chia's preconceived notions that intimacy with Chuka would be, predictable, even perfunctory.
Which, based on the tan curtains, you might assume.
You might. But the story reveals this surprising depth and passion. Instead, he startled me with new and unexpected pleasures. Doors never opened, were suddenly flung apart, our bodies in riot, and all the old laws undone.
Wow. That's quite the description.
Isn't it? This is a profoundly sensual and transformative experience, one that challenges her carefully constructed ideas about him and about love itself.
It powerfully illustrates the surprising nature of desire and connection. It reminds us that surface appearances, or even carefully constructed personas and our own biases, rarely tell the full, complex story of a person's inner life or their capacity for intimacy.
It's a moment of profound revelation, not just about Chuka, but about Chia's own capacity for unexpected pleasure, I think.
Definitely. And it's also crucial to note the subtle social awkwardness and judgments he encounters because of his connection with Chia.
Ah, the houseboy comment.
Right. His friend Inyinaya calls him Chia's houseboy for carrying her handbag. An insensitive remark that underscores the rigid societal pressures and judgments tied to traditional gender roles and expectations.
Especially around displays of affection or service.
Exactly, particularly for someone as seemingly sturdy and conventional as Chuka. This incident highlights how even a good man, attempting to be attentive, can be caught in the crosscurrents of outdated perceptions, especially when crossing class or social lines. It demonstrates the insidious ways patriarchal norms can limit men as well as women.
It's a reminder that even when attraction is strong, societal scrutiny can still cast a shadow, can still make things awkward.
For sure.
Okay, so Chia's romantic landscape continues to unfold with the Englishman and later Johann. These reveal a whole spectrum of connections, really.
Different flavors of relationships.
With the Englishman, we witness this brief, intense, yet ultimately platonic love. There's a quiet grandeur about him, an intellectual curiosity that captivated her.
The shared vulnerability, too.
Yes, like their mutual dislike of dogs, which he connects to James Joyce, of all people.
Mm.
Everything felt so precious when conversing with him. It hints at this almost ethereal, intellectual, and emotional connection that, transcended physical intimacy.
It's striking how this deep intellectual and emotional bond where everything felt so precious is then brutally contrasted with the revelation of his hidden marriage.
Which he describes as stale. Just stale.
Chill. Yeah. Chia's confusion and subsequent pain are palpable as she's reduced to reading unreadable signs, desperately trying to decipher the true nature of their relationship, only to be met with the painful truth of his deception.
That word stale is particularly jarring, isn't it? Used to describe his marriage.
It really is. It minimizes the emotional weight of his commitment and his betrayal. It's not just the fact of his marriage, but the casualness of his confession and that dismissive term for his long-term partner that wounds her. It speaks to a profound lack of empathy and a willingness to manipulate her feelings.
It truly shows how love, even when it feels intense and seemingly pure, can be built on this foundation of hidden truths that inevitably lead to pain and a questioning of one's own judgment.
Definitely. Then we move to Johann, a much more superficial relationship altogether, it seems.
Yeah, it lacks that intellectual depth she found with the Englishman. He's described with the throwaway air of an adventurer, suggesting lack of seriousness or deep roots, maybe.
Possibly. Their cultural disconnect becomes immediately apparent in discussions about what constitutes real parts of a city. He prefers the grungy places as showing the real city, the real character.
While Chia has a very different perspective.
Right. Chia astutely argues that people live there because they have no choice, not because they want to be real. This isn't just a difference in taste. It's a subtle but significant clash of perspectives on authenticity, privilege, and the realities of urban life. It highlights the different lenses through which they view the world and its inhabitants.
And this cultural clash, it escalates into that really shocking and uncomfortable incident with the bagel.
Oh, yeah, that was tense.
A German woman's seemingly innocuous question, bagel is a Jewish food, yes, is delivered with this loaded emphasis on Jewish, causing Chia to feel plunged into German history and this uncomfortable, unspoken accusation of anti-Semitism.
The way the woman's expression became a cliché makes Chia feel dizzy and targeted, sensing an implicit judgment.
And Johann's reaction, or lack thereof.
That's key. Johann's indifference during this moment, just casually tipping his head back to drink his beer, further underscores the superficiality of their connection and his utter lack of awareness or concern for her discomfort. He leaves her to navigate this fraught cultural territory completely alone.
It illustrates how seemingly simple interactions abroad can become these unexpected cultural landmines, revealing profound historical and social undertones that deeply affect personal relationships and expose the partner's differing capacities for empathy and understanding.
It's a stark reminder that even everyday objects, like a bagel, can carry immense historical weight, and cultural insensitivity can manifest in unexpectedly painful ways.
So it seems Chia has this distinct and recurring pattern in her romantic life, so much so that she's actually coined her own term for it, emotion.
Right. Not love, but emotion.
Yeah, it's not necessarily love in the conventional sense, but something that strikes her with remarkable, almost overwhelming intensity. That word choice itself, emotion, is interesting. It suggests something raw, unmediated maybe.
She defines it quite precisely. She calls emotion A rush and crush of emotion. It doesn't grow, its stripes fully formed, electric and intense. It lasts a few months at most. Usually I start it and always I end it.
So she's in control of the beginning and the end.
Seems like it. This isn't a quest for enduring partnership. It feels more like a deeper search for an exalted state of being, a profound spark that, by its very nature, is unsustainable.
Like a firework.
Exactly. It's a desire for an immediate, all-consuming feeling where everything is exaggerated, his glance becomes a beam, and my thoughts come in torrents. This suggests a possible psychological pattern. Perhaps a yearning for intense validation, or maybe a reluctance to commit to the slower, more mundane aspects of a long-term relationship.
A pursuit of peak experiences in love.
Yeah, even if they are ultimately fleeting, over the steady, gradual accumulation of affection.
And the fascinating aspect is the sheer variety of men who spark this emotion. It's not one type.
Not at all. Sometimes it's her usual draws, a self-aware or calm or very dark man. But other times it's the most unlikely man, defying any predictable type.
Like the big man with the big head.
Ah, yes. That anecdote is memorable. A character initially described as puffed up like boiling beans, who questioned her competence with an arrogant raised brow, making her feel judged as boring and bush and accidentally wealthy, ill-educated man.
Not exactly promising.
No. Yet when he smiles, she says, "A motion happened and the air crackled." This is a powerful example of how attraction can just defy logic, social status, and even initial disdain. It emerges from an unexpected, almost chemical reaction.
It suggests that her emotion is less about the man himself and more about some kind of trigger within her own psyche.
Absolutely. The eclectic nature of these experiences truly underscores the complexity of Chia's search for connection. It's almost a subconscious exploration of her own desires.
We hear about others too, right?
Yeah, we hear about a man who said, "I love you too much in bed," which distracted and disrupted my desire, pointing to a need for nuance and authenticity over overly performative declarations.
Interesting.
Or the man with the dirty egg toaster whose sloppy habits, initially charming in their eccentricity maybe, eventually infuriated her, revealing how quickly an initial spark can be extinguished by those prosaic realities of life.
The little things add up.
They do. This consistent pattern of intense, short-lived romances, driven by an immediate crackle in the air, reflects this cyclical quest for profound feeling that, once achieved, quickly dissipates, leaving her to move on. It's a dance with desire, self-discovery, and perhaps a subconscious avoidance of the deeper, more complex work of sustained love.
It's almost as if she is collecting these emotional bursts, rather than trying to build a singular, lasting edifice of love.
That's a good way to put it, collecting bursts.
As we continue to delve into these nuanced lives, let's now turn our attention to Zikora. Her journey powerfully illustrates the intense societal expectations placed on women, particularly regarding marriage and motherhood by a certain age.
Yes, Zikora's story is a poignant exploration of these pressures and the personal cost of trying to navigate them.
It really feels like it hits a nerve for a lot of women.
I think so. Her narrative is indeed a heartbreaking exploration of these societal timelines. We learn about her unutterably happy moment seeing the Pope, a moment of profound spiritual and personal alignment, believing her dream's path secure.
A moment of hope.
Exactly. Yet, the harsh reality quickly sets in. She finds herself 31 years old and she was unmarried and there was no serious man on the scene. This creates a crushing sense of desperation.
The clock is ticking, as they say.
Right. It leads her to online dating, which felt faithless, like a betrayal of her ideals. She even considers freezing her eggs, a modern solution to a timeless problem, only to be advised by a doctor to just try and conceive now. It highlights the relentless ticking clock women face and the societal judgment that comes with not conforming to traditional timelines.
And the men she encounters.
She experiences what she calls thieves of time, men who offered false hope and squandered her precious years. One man in particular suggested trying for a baby, but then added he didn't believe in nannies, a blindness of his to her ambitions.
Wow, just complete dismissal of her career.
It truly shows how men can subtly, or not so subtly, undermine women's professional lives, forcing this impossible choice between career and family.
And then comes the labor itself, which is described with such visceral detail.
Yes, physically and emotionally traumatic, pushing her to her absolute limits. Her mother's stoic philosophy, Barrett, that is what it means to be a woman, reflects this generational expectation of silent endurance, almost a cultural mandate for female suffering.
But Zikora doesn't just bear it silently.
No. In her raw pain, she cries out to the male doctor, "You don't know how it feels." A powerful, desperate plea that highlights the profound gender disconnect in understanding such profound physical and emotional agony.
The delivery itself is described as animalistic and violent.
And then it's followed by the devastating news that Kwame, the father, abandons her upon hearing of the pregnancy. Just leaves.
Heartbreaking.
But her eventual single motherhood with the birth of her son brings forth this fierce, protective, almost primal love. It culminates in her declaration, "I would die for him."
A complete shift.
This trajectory truly showcases her breaking point and, more importantly, her profound resilience. She redefines her purpose and finds an unexpected strength in a situation that initially brought such despair. It's a redefinition of what bearing it truly means, transforming suffering into a fierce, protective love.
Nafissatou's journey presents an even more harrowing ordeal, doesn't it? It's a testament to enduring dignity amidst truly unimaginable trauma.
It really is. She's introduced as a Guinean immigrant, described initially as quiet, unwilling to make a fuss.
But there are hints of past trauma.
Yes, we learn about her past, shouting, "He will send people to kill me," after a previous trauma, hinting at a history of vulnerability beneath that quiet surface. She finds solace and joy in simple domestic things like cooking and sifting fonio.
Grounding activity.
Exactly. They beautifully ground her in a sense of dignity and cultural connection, highlighting the small, personal ways one maintains self amidst external pressures.
Her path to asylum and her relationship with Amadou, it seemed like a source of comfort, even if problematic.
It offered some problematic but comforting presence as she navigated a new country. But then comes the horrifying hotel assault, described with a chilling dehumanization.
It's hard to even talk about.
It is. She becomes a thing to own and invade and discard. The assault is detailed graphically, reducing her to pushing her down to her knees, penis in her mouth, and in the immediate aftermath, her desperate, almost guttural plea, "I want to wash my mouth." Her torn stockings become this stark, visible symbol of her violation, not just physically, but of her dignity and selfhood. This is not just a crime. It's an erasure of her personhood, a brutal reduction to an object.
And this is precisely where the public and private narratives diverge so brutally.
Yes, exposing the media's devastating power to distort truth. The media weaves this elaborate web of lies about Nafissatou. She was part of a hotel workers' prostitution ring, a brothel madam, trafficked as a child, also traffics children. She was paid by the French government. It was a setup.
Just piling on, twisting everything.
These sensationalized public narratives utterly distort her private suffering and dignity, stripping her of her personhood. It's a brutal trial by fire, as the source puts it, where headlines ask, "Nafissatou Diallo, angel or demon?" reducing a complex human being to a simplistic, often malicious archetype.
But critically, despite this immense trauma and relentless public scrutiny.
Yes, the dismissal of her court case, which initially feels like a profound betrayal of justice, actually becomes a relief for Nafissatou.
That's the surprising twist.
It is. As Amina, her daughter perhaps explains, her mother didn't want to stand there and answer all these questions about her private life. This choice, to prioritize reclaiming her dignity and privacy over a public battle for justice, underscores the heavy, often overlooked, burden of public scrutiny.
It provides a really nuanced understanding of what justice can mean at a deeply personal level.
Exactly. It's a powerful testament to her resilience, not necessarily in fighting, but in retreating to protect herself. It's reclaiming agency in her own way.
Okay, let's turn to Omelogor now. Chia's outspoken and financially savvy cousin. Her personality undergoes these significant and sometimes, frankly, unsettling changes throughout the narrative. She seems almost chameleon-like in adapting to her environment.
Yeah, Omelogor's journey is fascinating. Her early ambition is truly striking. She studies finance and becomes exceedingly rich through this rather ingenious Robin Hood scheme.
Taking money from dormant bank accounts.
Yeah, to fund village women's businesses. She is described as a woman who loved wealth and power the way they announced themselves and had bold and baroque declarations at dinner parties. A confident, almost flamboyant presence initially.
But that changes.
It contrasts sharply with her transformation during American graduate school. She becomes leached of her light, a powerful image suggesting a draining of her vitality and unique spirit.
Leached of her light. Wow.
She grows hypercritical of Americanisms like shared and enjoy, finding them so presumptuous it's from an entitlement worldview. Her grievances felt like balloons overfilled with air, and her earlier boldness morphs into this kind of cynical, self-righteous indignation.
And even cruelty sometimes.
Yes, even cruelty, as when she makes that cutting comment about Zikora's rabid husband hunger. This transformation suggests the sometimes detrimental impact of immersion in a different culture, where instead of integration, it fosters a heightened sense of otherness and grievance.
And we really see this shift not just in her opinions, but in her communication style as well, right?
Definitely. In Nigeria, her bold and Baroque declarations might be seen as confident or charismatic, but in America, her words bruise the air, creating discomfort.
Chia notices this difference.
Yeah, Chia observes that Omelogor didn't know how to wear different selves like I did, referring to Chia's own ability to heighten my voice in Nigeria and to swallow more speech here, a form of cultural code switching. This highlights the challenge of navigating different cultural contexts without losing oneself or becoming overly critical.
Her opinions remain strong, though.
Oh, absolutely. At a dinner party, her strong opinions about African slavery, challenging Darnell's simplistic nonsense by asserting in Igbo land a slave was still human, are powerful and rooted in a nuanced historical understanding.
But she also makes generalizations.
She does. She also shares a cultural stereotype, stating, all over Africa, a Muslim believer is more likely than a churchgoer to be honest in everyday life. While perhaps a commonly held local belief, it certainly caused discomfort in an American setting, showing her bluntness and lack of filter in expressing culturally specific, potentially offensive opinions.
It's a complex portrait of identity, wealth, and cultural integration. Or maybe disintegration in her case.
A real shift. Hashtag 3.4 maternal pressures and generational gaps. This leads us pretty seamlessly to the generational dynamics and the relentless maternal pressures exerted on women in the narrative.
Oh yes, the pressure is palpable.
Chia, for instance, faces constant prodding from her mother and aunts. Chia, you're running out of time. A phrase just laden with anxiety about biological clocks and societal expectations.
You hear that phrase a lot.
You do, and there are clear stipulations for a suitable husband. He must be Catholic and Igbo, have a university degree, and be able to maintain you.
Maintain you. That wording.
It's striking, isn't it? Treating a woman as though you were a machine needing frequent oiling. It objectifies, reducing a complex individual to an asset that needs upkeep. It reflects a deeply ingrained patriarchal view of marriage as a transactional arrangement for security.
It's a very clear illustration of how women are expected to conform to these specific cultural blueprints for marriage and family, often with little regard for their personal desires.
Whereas Chia, as we know, yearns for a merging of souls, something far more profound and intimate than these pragmatic, almost contractual requirements.
And Zikora faces similar pressures, compounded by her mother's own hidden past.
Exactly. Her mother's past, initially shrouded in the story of repeated miscarriages, is later revealed as something more complex and deeply personal. She was pregnant before marriage, a significant transgression in their culture. This hidden truth exposes the secrets and shame that women of older generations carried, often in silence.
Which then influences how they pressure their daughters.
Precisely. Profoundly influencing their expectations and pressures, almost as a way to avoid the same perceived failures. It reveals this intergenerational cycle of shame and conformity.
And if we connect this to the younger generation, like Adichie,
we see a different yet equally potent kind of pressure. Adichie, a young woman under Omelogor's care, exhibits this submerged sadness and an intense obsession with modeling.
leading to extreme dieting.
Yes, extreme dieting for ab goals and hip dips. This highlights the destructive beauty standards imposed on young women. It's a new form of societal pressure, different from but equally powerful and damaging as the maternal pressures for marriage and children.
A shift from one kind of external validation to another.
Both demanding conformity to often unattainable ideals. The overarching theme, woven throughout these women's stories, is beautifully captured in Chia's reflection. If you live your life and die without one person fully knowing you, then have you even lived?
That's a deep question.
It really is. It raises an important question for you, the listener, about the true cost of conforming to external pressures versus pursuing authentic connection and self-knowledge, a pursuit that seems to be the central, often agonizing quest for many of the women in this narrative.
Let's expand our deep dive now into this rich tapestry of identity by exploring the profound historical context that's woven into these narratives. It's not just personal history, is it?
Not at all. From the shadows of the Nigerian Civil War to the broader history of slavery and colonialism, these events leave an indelible, almost genetic mark on the characters, shaping their present realities.
It really feels embedded.
A truly compelling aspect here is the lasting impact of the Nigerian civil war on Chia's father. Even though the war ended before Chia was even born, it left him forever in the shadow of just in case, never fully relaxed, always in a muted crouch of preparedness.
That's such a vivid image. A muted crouch of preparedness.
Isn't it? The detail of his small packed bag under his bed and an envelope full of never-touched cash in a safe is incredibly poignant and symbolic. It illustrates a deep-seated trauma and distrust that lingered for decades.
Because of what happened after the war.
Exactly. He started from zero after the war, and the memory of banks confiscating accounts and refusing loans to Igbo people after the war clearly shaped his cautious, almost hyper-vigilant nature. This isn't just personal history. It's a profound demonstration of how collective historical trauma can sculpt individual psychology across generations, creating a legacy of precarity even in times of peace.
And this historical weight, it extends far beyond individual experiences, doesn't it? It shapes cultural memory and collective identity.
Absolutely. Omelogor, Chia's cousin, fiercely defends African history against Darnell's simplistic nonsense about slavery, asserting, in Igbo land, a slave was still human. That's a crucial distinction from the dehumanization seen in transatlantic slavery.
It reflects a more nuanced understanding.
Right, a nuanced understanding of their own historical context and a refusal to accept monolithic narratives. We also hear about the wound of Kano, for Chia, tied to the brutal murder of her uncle Hezekiah, an event that, though not personally witnessed, leaves this deep communal scar.
And Omelogor's reaction to another murder.
Yes, Omelogor's strong emotional reaction to the murder of Gideon Akaluka, a stranger, makes her feel an inherited African strain. This isn't just a cultural identifier. It speaks to a profound, almost genetic transmission of collective trauma and resilience.
Like history is in her blood.
Exactly. It's the idea that history, especially violent history, leaves an indelible mark on identity, shaping how one perceives even distant acts of violence against people who share their heritage. It creates a communal memory that feels deeply personal, almost cellular.
And if we connect this to the broader picture, we also see how deeply personal histories interweave with global conflicts, often in unexpected ways.
Yes, like Luke's story.
Right? Luke shares the hidden trauma of his Dutch grandmother being punished after liberation for having a German lover publicly paraded through the streets with a shaved head and tar poured on her.
A devastating detail.
It reveals the brutal and often unspoken human cost of war that transcends national identity and even perceived enemy lines. It leaves hidden legacies of shame and suffering that pass down through generations, shaping identities in ways that are often concealed.
Making identity this complex interplay of personal vulnerability and collective memory, it forces us to consider the often unseen wounds that historical events inflict, which continue to resonate for decades, quietly shaping people's lives and their sense of self.
The narrative takes us across these diverse cultural landscapes, Nigeria, America, Europe, showing how characters navigate and perceive these global spaces, often through the revealing lens of race and cultural differences.
Yeah, it's a journey not just across continents, but across deeply ingrained societal perceptions.
Chia's observations of Americans are quite striking. She describes them as barking at airports, finding their cheer transparently false.
Not pulling any punches there.
No, this isn't just a casual observation. It highlights a profound cultural dissonance, a feeling of being an outsider, perceiving social norms as performative or insincere, almost like a theatrical act, rather than genuine emotion.
And we see racial dynamics impacting Darnell in Paris.
Right, where he's explicitly asked for his papers, but only the people who are not white. His American passport provides a pass, underscoring how nationality and perceived race interact in different contexts, granting privilege to some while singling out others for scrutiny.
And Anamika's experience with dating apps in America.
Getting blocked after sending his picture.
Yeah, it further illustrates the subtle yet pervasive racial biases that shape social interactions, highlighting how superficial perceptions can dictate profound outcomes in the search for connection.
And Chia herself experiences these direct racial and cultural challenges that seem to chip away at her sense of self.
Like the visa interview.
Exactly. During a visa interview in America, she's told, rather brusquely, to speak up, and feels her dignity chewed by the visa officer, an experience of being diminished and othered.
That feeling of being made small.
Yeah. She contrasts her disdain for pious class academics who engage in intellectual games about race with her appreciation for the direct kindness of a journalist who wields power carelessly. It suggests a preference for authentic interaction and genuine empathy over performative intellectualism or self-conscious virtue signaling.
And Omelogor's transformation in American Graduate School.
Becoming overly critical of Americanisms.
Right, where she becomes overly critical of words like shared and enjoy, claiming they are nonsensical and rooted in an entitlement worldview. It further highlights the cultural clashes and different ways of perceiving language and social interaction.
These experiences collectively demonstrate the often unspoken rules, biases, and power dynamics that exist in these global spaces.
And how they force individuals to constantly adjust or resist adjusting their sense of identity. It's a constant negotiation of belonging and otherness. Hashtag 4.3 wealth, privilege, and their complexities. This brings us neatly to the complex and often contradictory role of money and class in the characters' lives. It shapes not only their relationships, but also their societal observations and moral compasses.
Yeah, money is never just money here.
No. Chia's family wealth, for example, is presented as this double-edged sword. It affords Darnell that pass in Paris, preventing him from being questioned by uniformed men, an undeniable privilege.
But it also fuels his resentment.
Exactly. It also fuels his acid humor about her being impurely African, creating a profound resentment and a sense of her not quite belonging, almost a questioning of her authenticity because of her affluence. This suggests that privilege can both protect and alienate, creating complex psychological burdens.
And Darnell's boastful claim at the New York Gala. That's a fascinating moment.
It really is. Where he tells a white man from an Old West family that the fancy soap your New York family ordered from London in the 1880s was made with the palm oil that Chia's family exported from Igbo land.
Trying to claim a piece of that history.
It's a way for him to assert a kind of historical connection and wealth, albeit through Chia's family, trying to reclaim a narrative of power and influence, maybe. Meanwhile, Omelogor, with her Robin Hood project, actively subverts traditional notions of wealth accumulation.
Right, her redistribution scheme.
She systematically redistributes wealth by stealing from dormant bank accounts to fund village women's businesses. It's driven by a desire to empower others and to critique the systemic accumulation of wealth, embodying a practical, if morally ambiguous, form of social justice.
This critical perspective on wealth is explored further through Omelogor's observations, too.
Yeah, her sharp observation of a profligate strain in Nigerians of means who excessively order food they wouldn't eat and didn't need. This isn't just a commentary on waste, it's a critique of conspicuous consumption and a perceived moral failing associated with excessive wealth.
And Chia grapples with her own privilege as well.
She does. Considering how high and mighty it might seem to rent a taxi for hours in the Zurich countryside compared to feeding the kids up in the mountains, which leads her to cancel the taxi. This highlights the internal moral compass at play when navigating privilege and the subconscious awareness of global inequalities.
These examples collectively illustrate the intricate and often contradictory ways in which wealth shapes identity, relationships, and moral choices within the narrative.
Revealing that money is rarely just money. It's deeply interwoven with history, power, and personal ethics.
Okay, as we delve into our final section here, let's explore the act of storytelling itself, beginning with how memory functions within the narrative. It's often presented not as this rigid historical record, but as something, well, unreliable, selective.
Yeah, deeply shaped by our own desires and interpretations. Almost a narrative we actively create for ourselves.
It's striking to note Chia's profound self-awareness about this malleability. She reflects, in my memory, this is how I first noticed him, but our memories lie.
Such a direct admission.
It is. This isn't a casual admission. It's a philosophical stance on the very nature of personal history. She even questions how she knew a character was Korean, acknowledging, I don't know how I knew, but I did. It implies a kind of intuitive knowing that often bypasses factual, sequential recall.
It highlights how personal stories are not static records but are constantly constructed and reconstructed over time. They're influenced by emotions, subconscious biases, and the desire for a coherent, if not entirely accurate, narrative.
Her contemplation. Why do we remember what we remember? Which reels from our past assert their vivid selves and which remain dim, just out of reach. Really invites you, the listener, to consider your own relationship with memory.
Yeah, and the stories you tell yourself, the narratives you cling to, and those you maybe allow to fade. It underscores that truth, especially personal truth, is often a fluid, subjective landscape. Hashtag 5.2. the struggle to write and be heard.
This inherent subjectivity in memory and the creation of personal narrative, it leads us naturally to Chia's ambition as a writer and the formidable challenges she faces in getting her authentic stories published.
A struggle that many aspiring writers, particularly those from marginalized communities, can probably profoundly relate to.
Her initial excitement for travel writing, with its promise of lighthearted observations from an African perspective, soon turns to frustration.
Not for lack of ideas, though.
No, but for their elusive nature. Ideas skittered away when she tried to plate them into sentences, and the words came out not quite what I wanted to say. It reveals the profound difficulty of translating an internal truth into external, coherent expression.
But what's truly illuminating, I think, is the clash with her literary agent.
Right, who steered her away from her light, funny takes on travel.
Exactly. The agent explicitly wanted her to write about war in Sudan, or what women they're going through. This reveals a deeply ingrained, almost colonial preconceived notion of what an African writer should write about,
Boxing her in.
effectively boxing her into a narrow, often tragic stereotype. It's a struggle against an imposed narrative, a fight for the right to define her own voice and subject matter.
And this is precisely where Chika's response is so profoundly resonant and powerful.
It really lands.
Chia, feeling desperate for him to understand the weight of this artistic and cultural burden, states, I want to write light, funny takes on travel. And to her, I'm just an African who should write about struggles.
And Chuka's astonished reply.
The problem is that many of these white people don't think we also dream. And Chia's emphatic, almost really, yes, exactly. It's a pivotal moment.
It encapsulates the profound struggle for authentic representation and the right to tell diverse stories that transcend narrow, often tragic stereotypes. It's an assertion that African lives are full, complex, and capable of joy, humor, and dreams, just like any other.
This exchange isn't just about literary ambition. It's a profound statement on cultural dignity and the universal human right to a full, unburdened narrative. It highlights those often invisible walls that limit imagination and perception.
And the narrative starkly illustrates the profound and often devastating difference between a deeply personal truth and how it is twisted, sensationalized, and ultimately consumed by the public and media, particularly through Nafissatou's experience.
It's incredibly stark with her story.
The media weaves this intricate web of lies about her. She was part of a hotel workers' prostitution ring, a brothel madam, trafficked as a child, also traffics children. She was paid by the French government. It was a setup. These sensationalized public narratives utterly distort her private suffering and dignity,
Just stripping her of her personhood.
reducing her to a caricature designed for public consumption.
It's a brutal trial by fire, as the source puts it, where headlines scream, Nafissatou Diallo, angel or demon, and the public is encouraged to engage in this binary judgment.
And it's so easy for the public to believe these fabricated stories, isn't it? Particularly when they tap into existing prejudices or desires for drama.
Even Jide, a more objective observer, notes the absurdity.
Right, he notes, only a fool would organize a setup that is so amateur, highlighting the absurdity of some of the claims. This immense gap between the intricate, painful reality of her experience and the reductive, often malicious public narrative is not just a personal injustice.
It's a critique of the media.
It's a powerful critique of how media can construct and manipulate truth, shaping perception far more powerfully than fact.
Indeed. Nafissatou's personal reality is one of quiet, almost stubborn resilience, deeply contrasting with that public storm.
She never says much when I call. Not that she ever said much before, but her efforts to wash off this stain of shame reveal the depth of her private suffering and her yearning to reclaim her dignity from the public eye.
And what's particularly powerful, and provides that profound twist, is that while the dismissal of her case might seem like a failure of justice to outsiders,
For Nafissatou, it comes as a profound relief. As Amina explains, her mother didn't want to stand there and answer all these questions about her private life.
she chooses privacy over public vindication.
This choice to prioritize reclaiming her dignity and privacy over a public battle for justice underscores the heavy, often overlooked burden of public scrutiny. It provides a nuanced understanding of what justice can mean at a deeply personal level, especially for those whose private lives have been so cruelly exposed. It's a powerful statement about reclaiming agency, even if it's an unconventional form of victory. #tag outro.
So as we gently close the pages on this deeply immersive audio library experience, it's abundantly clear that Dream Count is far more than just a series of individual stories.
Much more.
It's a powerful, intricate exploration of how we navigate the bewildering complexities of personal desires, relentless cultural pressures, and the, well, seismic shifts of global crises. We've seen characters like Chia grapple with the elusive nature of love and the constant search for self-worth. Zikora confront deeply ingrained societal expectations for marriage and motherhood. And Nafissatou endures profound trauma while fiercely holding on to her dignity.
Incredible strength shown.
These are not just distant narratives from a faraway land. They are vibrant, resonant reflections of the universal human struggle to find meaning, connection, and authenticity in a world that often seeks to define us.
Indeed. What truly stands out, woven through every character's journey, is the incredible, multifaceted nature of human resilience. The capacity to dream, to persevere against overwhelming odds, and to continually reevaluate what truly matters even when the world feels like it's reversing or closing in.
The resilience really shines through.
From the specific anxieties of a global pandemic to the intimate struggles of love and identity, these stories remind us that life is rarely linear. And human beings are, as Chia reflected, breakable, but also profoundly capable of enduring, adapting, and even thriving in unexpected ways. The journey through this narrative has shown us that knowing oneself and others is a lifelong dream count, a continuous, nuanced process of discovery that requires both courage and vulnerability.
And that brings us to our provocative thought for you to carry forward, a question to mull over as you navigate your own narratives. In a world saturated with quick headlines, simplified narratives, and the pressure to present a curated self, what unvarnished stories, both in the world around you and within yourself, might you be overlooking?
And following on from that, how would truly listening to those stories, with all their contradictions, their vulnerabilities, their quiet strengths, how would that change your own understanding of what it means to live a full life and to allow yourself, perhaps, to be truly known in all your complexity?
A profound question to ponder, one that invites genuine introspection and empathy, I think. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Dream Count. We hope you found insights that resonate and spark your own reflections. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep listening.